Hello beautiful people, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful illusion neckline or illusion yoke. If you haven't seen the video where I drafted the pattern, please go ahead and watch that video. I will link it in the description box, or I will just pin it in the comment section. Please go ahead and watch that first so that you can understand the pattern drafting. So without wasting much of our time, please subscribe, like, comment, and let's get started. So from the pattern drafting tutorial, this was the pattern I made, but I'll be making few adjustments to this pattern. One, I'll be making the neckline to just get to my under bust and not my waist. So I'm trying to pin the yoke and the one side of the bustier together so that I can recut the other neckline that I've drawn before. I don't know if you can see, but I have two drawings there. So the first one was the one I cut, which got to my waist, but I don't want this one to get to my waist. That's why I'm cutting this other one that got to my under bust. So this is what I have. So now I've adjusted the pattern. I'll just go ahead now and cut my fabric. But before cutting the fabric, let's make some adjustments to the back pattern too. So this was the back pattern that I made from the previous video. But now I'll just be creating a yoke to this pattern. So from my armhole measurement, I just went up by 3/4 inches by 3/4 inches. Then I'll be slanting this. So for me to slant it at the armhole area towards the armhole side, the armhole line towards the armhole side, I'll just go up by 2 inches. You can go up by 3 inches or more. So from that point, I'll just connect it just like this, just like the way I've connected it to get this yoke pattern. As you can see that the first line I drew was the one I later used. So even the 3/4 inches I said I measured, I did not later use it. It was still the armhole measurement I used. So now this is the yoke pattern, and I've went ahead to add my neckline back to it because I'll be cutting another neckline. So for the neckline I'll be cutting, it will be 3.5 by 4 inch for the front, 3.5 by 4 inch. Then I'll be connecting the line just like that. I'm trying to draw the neckline very well so that it can come out nice. And from the back pattern, I'll be doing a keyhole kind of design. So the first thing I will do now is to extend this zip allowance up so I can know what I am doing. Then from the neckline, I'll measure just 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches, 1.5 by 3.5 inches. I'm trying to confirm if it was the same thing I used for the back, for the front rather. So from there I'll just connect the neckline. I'll connect it like this. Then for me to make the keyhole effect, I'll go down by 1.5 inches. Okay, I went down by 1 inches. So I just went down by 1 inches. Then I'll be connecting it to the lower part. So for me to get the lower part, I just kind of assume how it would be if it was to be at the front. So I just thought that 4 inches after the zip allowance won't be bad. That means if I open it up, it will be 8 inches. So I just connected it from that point down to the other point. So I use 4 inch after the zipper allowance. So the next thing I'll be doing is to cut it out. So the zipper allowance here will serve as the overlapping of this yoke if I'll be adding a press button or a button to it. So you don't need to cut out the zipper allowance at that part. So I just went ahead to cut out my neckline. So these are my fabric. I've went ahead to cut the fabric, the net, and the lining. So I've added interfacing to my fabric, and I've also added my seam allowance to where there was no seam allowance, that is the joining allowance. So for this pattern I've added my seam allowance. For these two I added to both sides because I want to join it at the midpoint. at the front. I don't know if you get. I want it to have a joining at the midpoint at the front. So with that joining, it makes it easy for you to fix your neckline, your yoke neckline, especially if it has this curvy effect. So if there's joining at the front, it will allow it better. So this is my back pattern. I extended the seam allowance because the seam allowance for my skirt part is like 1.5 or 1 3/4, so I just want it to be the same as the lower part. So this is my yoke. I just went ahead to add the joining allowance to the lower part just there. So I'm trying to redraw the pattern for this yoke here. So I want to reduce it to like 3/4 inches. I want to reduce it, so that's just what I just did here, and I added 1/2 inch at that part, for it to be joined with the main bodies, for it to be joined like that. And from our pattern drafting, we already had our shoulder joining allowance, so we don't need that anymore. So now I've went ahead to join my front pattern, that is the center front together with the side front. So now it's time to fix our yoke, our illusion yoke. So you just make sure you balance this yoke, the tiny edge at this point here. Make sure you balance it, then you pin from side to side, that is each side you pin. You make sure you pin. Please, you have to be careful at this point because it's kind of tricky. So just make sure this illusion neckline is balanced and it is 1/2 inch towards each other. Just 1/2 inch towards each other. Then you pin it down. You pin it till you get to the upper part. So to get to the upper bust area, you just keep pinning. So I went ahead to pin it, and this is what it looks like. So I'll just go ahead and sew. So after sewing, this is what I have. I'm just removing my pin here. So after this, the next thing we have to do is to fix the lining to it. As you can see, it came out really neat. The advantage of it having a joining at this front is just for it to turn it over easily. If there was no joining at the front, it would be quite hard for us to join this yoke to the bustier. So the next thing I'll be doing is to fix my lining. I've also went to sew the lining. So I'll be placing the lining like this. I don't know if you understand the way I'm placing the lining. So one side of the lining, there's a joining at the midpoint. You just pin one side to this side in such a way that when you flip it over, it will cover it and the joining will be inside. So you just pin and make sure it is balanced at the lower part, that is the length is balanced. I don't know if you understand. So when you flip it over, it will turn out nice. So this is the other side too. Then you will pin it round. Then after pinning and sewing, this is what it looks like. I've not ironed it here now. I've not ironed it here. That's why it's looking like this. But as you can see, that it turns out really nice. Like it came out perfectly okay. So this is the upper bust, and this is what I have. This is without even ironing. This is what it looks like, and it looks really nice. So the next thing to do is to sew our back bodies. So this is my back bodies and the lining. So I'll just go ahead and fix the yoke to it in this way. So this is how the yoke will be fixed. I'll just flip it over. Then I will use the lining to cover it like this. Then I'll just sew with 1/2 inch. I will sew with 1/2 inch. But before I sew, we have to turn the edge of this yoke, the keyhole neckline. We have to turn it with our bias tape, and the neckline also with our bias tape, and also our front bodies, the neckline with our bias tape before we sew, so that our sewing can be neat. This neckline also we have to turn it with bias. So after turning it with bias, I went ahead to fix it inside. That is the overlapping at the upper part, and this is the lining overlapping. As you can see, the keyhole effect came out really nice, and the curvy part also came out nice. So after joining and after doing our darts, this is what it looks like, and this is our front bodice too. This is what it looks like. So you just go ahead and join shoulder to shoulder, and you add the sleeve of your choice. Then you add it to your skirt if it is a gown. So this is the end of this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Please like, comment and share, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.